Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Debbie Douglas, the Senior Director of Collections and Curator of Science and Technology, welcoming you here to Killian Court at MIT for our Commencement 2024.
And I'm Todd Glickman, Senior Director of the MIT Office of Corporate Relations and our Industrial Liaison Program, and we are delighted to be with you once again this year.
Actually, commencement is a 3-day affair at MIT now, and what we are sharing with you is some insights and color and description of what we call the One MIT ceremony. It is the culminating ceremony for all of the individual schools and departments and undergraduate celebrations when the students receive their diplomas.
And I think it's appropriate, Deb, that we start with a couple of words about the weather today. Every year, commencement is a weather adventure. And I'm going to go way back to my undergraduate years here because I have a degree in Earth, Atmospheric, and Planetary Sciences, which means I'm a recovering meteorologist. And each year I help the commencement committee understand what the weather is going to be like. And it's been rather interesting this year, wouldn't you say?
It has. We have oscillated from extreme highs to extreme lows, and in the last 10 days, it's been in the 90s, and today it's on the cooler side, and as our guests from around the world can tell, it's a little gray here in Cambridge, Massachusetts this afternoon. We had some pretty bad downpours this morning, and the umbrellas tell you that it's still drizzling a bit, but Todd, tell us what the weather gods say for most of the ceremony this afternoon.
So here's the interesting part about the weather at this time of year. It can be very nice. If the wind comes out of the west, it's typically dry and mild, but the Atlantic Ocean water temperature is still very chilly. It's only in the lower 50s right now, and so anytime you get a prolonged wind off that water, as we have had for the last 24 to 36 hours, it is cool and damp. We had a little storm system go by, dumped half an inch to an inch of rain, which ended about 10 o'clock this morning. And the current radar is still showing that there's some light rain and drizzle that's going to be around for another couple of hours. Later in the day today, we may even see a little bit of sunshine. The good news is the downpours are done.
So you've been just getting a close-up on the Great Seal of MIT that was created by the MIT Corporation in 1864. MIT was established in 1861 on April the 10th, and a couple days later, with the start of the Civil War, it became clear that this grand academic adventure that William Barton Rogers and his fellow members of the first MIT Corporation had conceived was not to get an immediate start, that they were going to have greater challenges in raising the funds that they needed to build the school buildings, which were in fact originally stationed in the Back Bay of Boston. But that seal came shortly before the first class of students set foot on that campus in Boston in 1865, and it features a laborer with an anvil and a scholar with a book, which is the educational philosophy of the founder William Barton Rogers, the idea of mind and hand.
And that philosophy continues to today. The current students are embodied not only in their learning of the theories and the practice of what's going on, but they're building, they're creating, they're being entrepreneurs, they're being innovators. And if you walk through the hallways of MIT, especially through the basements, you can see students actually working on things that demonstrate what they are learning. And that's the magic of MIT. When they come out of here, they're not only engineers and scientists and specialists in management or in urban planning, but they have built and created things during their education that will help them in their future.
In fact, that's true even in the humanities and social sciences, this idea of learning by doing. The most fun thing I've discovered when I arrived on campus some 25 years ago was that it was extremely hard to tell which are the facility shops and which are the laboratories where cutting-edge research was being undertaken. But That said, doesn't matter whether you are one of our talented facilities staff people who, in fact, have built this whole stage setup and that you see today and all around campus. Or whether you are a student who is plotting a mission to the outer edges of the universe. It turns out everyone still uses duct tape.
Absolutely. In fact, we have a roll of it right here on our desk today if we need it. It's interesting that of the approximately 1,000 plus undergraduates and almost 4,000 graduate students that are going through the exercises, each one of them has a niche. Each one of them has a specialty. But one of the really cool things about an education at MIT is you have a major where you specialize, but not only do you choose to dabble in different things, you are encouraged to do it. Everyone has electives. Everyone participates in extracurricular activities. We have more athletics here, I think, intramural than almost any other university in the country. And so if you stop an individual student here and say, what do you do at MIT? They'll probably say, well, I'm majoring in electrical engineering, computer science, but here's what else I do.
Let me tell you this, and I think that's really one of the important ingredients in MIT's secret sauce is, in fact, that learning takes place not just in the classroom, but in a student's living group, in their department, in the workshops, in the labs, in the clubs, on the sports fields. But I'm going to give a shout out to the sailing pavilion. MIT is noted as the pioneer in collegiate sailing, and the Tech Dinghy, which was designed by Professor George Owen and built by the Hershoff Marine Manufacturing Company in Bristol, Rhode Island. Nathaniel Hershoff can still considered to this day one of the most important and distinguished sailors in the world, as well as builders of high-speed yachts. But the Tech Dinghy became the class of sailing, and in the mid-1930s, in the middle of the Depression, in 9 months, they managed to raise the funds for 36 boats, train 500 people in the rudiments of sailing, get a sailing pavilion built, and to this day, it is one of the most distinguished sailing programs in the country. And it's one of the few sports that students walk on and can leave national champions.
Absolutely, and I think a similar story can be told for many of the student clubs and activities and sports around the campus. When I came here as an undergraduate, I was attracted to the MIT student radio station, then called WTBS. We became WMBR. And not only did we as students want to participate as news people or disc jockeys, but we wanted to fix the equipment. We wanted to see if we could work to make higher power to get our signal out more and work with the FCC to do that and raise funds to do it. And through the course of at least my tenure at the radio station and now serving on the board of directors, we've had many people going through that club, that activity, who have gone on to be professional broadcasters, not only on air, but in the background. There was one gentleman who graduated from MIT with a degree in electrical engineering, computer science, became the vice president of engineering of CBS Radio.
So we're pretty proud at the museum that in our collections includes a unit created by your predecessors at WTBS, which is the first transistor soundboard. I think I have the name right.
That's
Todd,
right.
Correct me.
It's called the MK60, which stands for Mixing Console, built in 1960, and I got to use it when I was a student.
It really is a remarkable piece. It's featured in 3 different exhibitions over time, including one, if you can believe it or not, at the Liss Visual Arts Center. MIT has 2 museums on its campus, one that features on contemporary arts, and my own MIT museum, which is home to an encyclopedic collection that documents the history of science, technology, art, architecture, all things, in fact, MIT, from the lens of the Institute from the mid-19th century right through the present. So,
And you are proudly in a brand new facility. Tell us about it.
we are. It's a wonderful new building. It's right in MIT's new gateway in Kendall Square. This is home to the new Welcome Center, admissions office, graduate tower, a spectacular open space that not only serves the MIT community, but the larger Kendall Square community. And the museum is right in the heart of that. It's a facility that features 60,000 or so square feet of new galleries and teaching and learning spaces.
Yeah, we joke that we left campus in early 2020 when the COVID lockdown happened. And when we came back a year and a half later, Kendall Square had 5 new towers. They didn't stop construction. It's just amazing with the new graduate buildings that were built, new commercial tower, which houses in part your museum, some beautiful new restaurants on the upper floors, their commercial activities. Boeing has a couple of floors there because companies like Boeing want to be close to the research at MIT. You mentioned the Welcome Center. And for our graduates who may have lived in the Eastgate dormitory, which was a pillar of Kendall Square, it is no more. It came down brick by brick over the last year, and a new building is popping up as we speak.
It is. And so it's when you come back, or when this class comes back for a reunion 5-10 years hence, it will be different still. But you mentioned the pandemic, and this graduating class is distinct because they didn't actually start in Cambridge. The undergraduates' first semester was at home, and they were a group of students whose high school graduations were, for the most part, canceled or performed in a very unconventional manner. And so we know that all of them and their families have been looking forward to this day with great enthusiasm.
A couple of statistics about our graduating class of 2024. Applicants numbered 20,075, and you think it's competitive to get into an Ivy League university. Only 1,457 were admitted, and of course there were a couple, for whatever reason, chose not to come. I don't understand why, but that left us with 1,099 undergraduate students who will be receiving their degrees this week, accompanied by 2,604 graduate students. And all of them are going to be receiving their diplomas in a little different manner than we had prior to COVID. You may recall that up until then, there was one big ceremony. It took over 5 hours, where all the big talks happened, the turning of the rat, the music, the honor guard came, we had the speeches, we had the charge to the graduates, and then 8 of us would read the names of over 3,000 students on and on and on in whatever weather came our way. And it's different now.
And it was a miracle of technical logistics to get all the students lined up in exact alphabetical order, and so that when they fed into those lines, the slip of paper corresponded exactly with the diploma, because they didn't just get a case and pick up the diploma later. Their diploma was actually inside that cover. I think that was a real point of pride for the registrar and her team at that time. Today, however, the students will be at their various ceremonies receive a case, if you will, and then when they turn in all their caps and gowns, they actually will receive their actual diploma. But there's another feature, which is that they can opt in to receive a digital diploma, which is a novel feature, and perhaps one that in the future employers will turn to more and more to have a secure verification that the student, in fact, did receive the degree that they claim on their resume.
Now, we do keep the tradition alive. This will be tomorrow morning for the undergraduate ceremony, which will occur here in Killian Court. And each undergraduate will receive his or her own diploma with a name on it, read by a live announcer. I will be one of the 6 people that will be reading those names. They will come up in the exact order and receive the proper diploma, have their picture taken, and then recess back into the audience. But the other ceremonies throughout the course of yesterday, today, are done typically by department or school as appropriate. So, for example, this morning I was over at the Sloan School of Management Masters of Finance ceremony, where we had 100 new Masters of Finance graduates. Nobel Prize winner Bob Merton gave a wonderful talk, and each of those students received the diploma there and were able to be greeted by their family in a more intimate setting. And we think that this new procedure of departments and schools having their own ceremonies is a little more special for the students.
Well, it certainly allows them the opportunity, along with their families, to meet their professors, to meet the administrators and staff who they've worked most closely with over their time here in Cambridge. I wanted to share, though, because you're getting scenes of many of the graduates. The undergraduates are all, if you can look through their rain gear and ponchos and the like, all have the black robes. And they also have, you'll notice, different stoles and cords, and those reflect the various affinity groups that the students are associated with. So some of them are class officers, some of them are parts of different organizations, some of them are their schools that they're affiliated with. So you will see that. But the most distinctive robe, and we'll give a shout out when we see it come up, is the MIT doctoral robe. That was adopted in 1995. It's a silver gray robe with cardinal red trim and the conventional hood, and you can recognize those anywhere around the world as being an alum of this great institution.
Now, the students are already in Killian Court because they're not receiving their diplomas at this particular ceremony, but this is where the major speeches will occur, the music will occur, and the keynotes will occur. But one special set of guests will be coming in, and I think it's probably worth highlighting them at this point, and that's our 50th class reunion, the class of 1974. It's interesting that there were just over 4,000 undergraduates in that class 50 years ago, which is almost exactly the same as we have right now. However, the number of graduate students was in half, 3,775. The number of women went up from 816 to 921, so that was good progress. And they're going to be coming in their beautiful cardinal red blazers.
That's a jacket that was adopted by the class of 1916 at their 50th reunion. They wanted to do something special to mark their reunion, and the tradition was readily adopted by 50th anniversary classes ever since, and you see those jackets at MIT events all the time. It's really a distinctive moment, and you'll notice that the students rise and pay tribute to this class that has lived such an interesting, or through an interesting set of experiences. This group, of course, the class of 74, has much in common with today's class. They've experienced a world of considerable turmoil, of inflation, of deep concerns about the environment and energy. That's, of course, one of President Sally Kornbluth's great initiatives in terms of how MIT might address climate change. For example, they had deep interest in there was this thing called artificial intelligence.
What could that be?
That was a new thing. There was this new lab that had just been created and was beginning to work on these problems. And here we are today with, likewise, very much in the news. But here's some differences, Todd.
Yes.
In 1970-71, when that class arrived, their tuition for the entire year was $2,500.
That must be some big amount in today's dollars.
It's about 21,000 in today's dollars, but it doesn't compare with, of course, the tuition today. Full year tuition is almost $62,000 today.
But as the administration will remind people, that's about half the cost of what it really takes to educate a student at MIT.
Yes, that mind and hand motto, but particularly the hand motto, really requires amazing shops, computers, and equipment that has the likes of which the class of 74 could only have imagined, from 3D printers to laser cutters to water jets and the like.
And of course, those additional funds come from many sources. There are many, many generous gifts to MIT, which have gone into the endowment, and return on the endowment helps considerably. There's research, which comes about 75–80% funded by the U.S. government, and much of the rest from industry. And that contributes to a lot of the facility and overhead costs. And so the students are able to take advantage of the reduced cost to attend MIT. But we have an amazing philosophy here. Anybody who is admitted, we have what's called need blind admission. They come in and we find a way for them to afford it.
In fact, anyone whose income is today under $75,000 will not pay any tuition and very nominal costs. So the goal really is to provide as much access to the educational opportunities as is possible. And we're seeing overhead a small airplane congratulating one of the classes of 2024.
So this is, I believe, Deb, the 157th graduating class?
That's right.
That's correct. You can't really say we've had 157 commencements because the first year had some issues, and then we had the pandemic. We suspended it for a couple of years. We had a makeup the following year, but it looks like we're really back setting new traditions the last couple of years, which hopefully will last on.
I think that this is a really important moment. We don't have very many ceremonies in our ordinary lives these days, and to take a moment to stop and reflect on the intense experience, night and day. This is a lights on, 24/7 kind of place. People are engaged in all the issues of our times. They are working incredibly hard to develop the techniques that enable them to apply the skills that they have learned in the classroom to solving the problems of our times.
And I think it's important now that we talk a little bit about what we're going to be seeing over the next 20 or so minutes. In about 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to share with you a little bit about how the sausage is made here at commencement, because that class of 74, the 50th reunion class, will come marching in, and there needs to be somebody who will announce that to the audience. And that somebody is me. So I'm going to be pausing my chat here with Deb for just a moment to make that announcement in the courtyard, which you will hear. And then 5 to 10 minutes after that, the academic procession will come into the courtyard, and we will announce that as well. And we'll talk about that procession as they do come in, because it is a spectacular sight. But I think we should also mention that our one MIT commencement speaker is really somebody that we're excited to be hearing about today.
Yes, so Noubar Afeyan is an inventor and entrepreneur. He has himself patented over 100 inventions. He was the founder in 2000 and continues to be the CEO of what is called a venture creation company, Flagship Pioneering, that has founded more than 100 companies in biotechnology and healthcare. Perhaps one of the most well-known of those is Moderna, which he was the co-founder and board chair of. And I don't know about you, Todd, but several of my COVID vaccine jabs were Moderna vaccination.
Absolutely.
A piece of trivia, because we have a huge Polaroid collection at the museum, but the very same factory that made the famous Polaroid SX70 camera is the same factory that made the Moderna vaccines.
So the first commencement speaker was in 1982. Before 82, the commencement speaker was always the president of MIT. Mine was Jerome Wiesner, who was the president of MIT at the time. And we have had some really interesting speakers over the years, recommended by a subcommittee of the corporation, but ultimately chosen by the president of the Institute. And in 2022, I do want to take a moment to mention this. We had a very special ceremony for the classes of 2020 and 2021 who could not be here. And Kealoha Wang, the poet laureate of Hawaii, did an amazing job. It is on YouTube. And if you go to YouTube and just search for MIT Speaker 2022 Poet Laureate of Hawaii or something like that, it is the best 20 minutes you will spend in front of your laptop in a long time.
I totally agree. I also will call attention back to 1999 when two famous Cambridge locals, Click and Clack, the Tappet brothers, the infamous public radio car talk guys, were the commencement speakers here at MIT, and they had a great piece of advice for the graduates, which is don't put off till tomorrow. Don't put off till you're old and gray. You'll never be smarter. You'll never have more education. You'll never have more hair than you do now. Do it today. Create that big new thing, make that discovery, and that carpe diem philosophy is certainly one that we think all of the speakers urge our graduating class to consider.
And it's fascinating that each year we have a different kind of speaker. We have politicians, Al Gore, the Vice President of the United States. We've had Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United States. We have members of industry. We have people who are nonprofits from the United Nations. We have philanthropists, we have inventors, we have entrepreneurs, and so it's a really terrific mix.
Yes, in fact, when Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton, came to speak at MIT, that was so popular that they did not have enough seats. We have 13,000 seats in Killian Court here, and we have a very large stage that has seats for the faculty, and normally we have a nice representative sampling, but everybody wanted in on the action for that particular talk. I will say that today we've been referring a lot to the space that you're seeing all of our students sit in as Killian Court. That's named for MIT's former president, James Ryan Killian. And in 1974 was the year that this great court was named in his honor.
So I was a freshman just before that. It was the Great Court, which we knew it by, and sometimes it still slips out from some of the old timers here. But it's an amazing piece of real estate that can only be used for special events here at MIT. It can't be rented out. You can't have your wedding there. But official MIT ceremonies and events are allowed.
Of course, several of the classes take advantage of this, so I've seen a number of the famous Mechanical Engineering 2007 course intro sections held out in the courtyard, and all of a sudden there's some sort of styrofoam catapult or other contraption that the students have created launching things.
The other day during one of our rehearsals, one of the Boston Dynamics robots was walking around the court. So now we're going to make that announcement I spoke of. Please welcome the MIT class of 1974, celebrating their 50th reunion. So as the music fires up, our cameras will train towards the Memorial Drive entrance to Killian Court, and you will see the columns of 50th reunion class coming in, and there they are. now exiting the building, moving towards the center of the court.
Yes, because of the inclement weather this morning, the class assembled inside and are now making their way. You'll see their red jackets, but they also have distinctive headgear, which is intended. Each class has their own sort of insignia that helps distinguish them from other graduating classes. And as they make their way to the start of the procession, they will pass by all of the students who have now taken their seats, and then the main party will begin with faculty leading their way into the courtyard.
The logistics are really interesting, is that the faculty are assembling in one place. The graduating class is already in the courtyard, of course, and the faculty, led by the officers of the corporation, will be coming in, and they have a number of symbolic items which they're going to be bringing with us. And Deb, let's talk a little bit about the mace and the shepherd's staff.
Yes, so the very first thing that you're going to see, and we'll give a shout out when that appears, is a ceremonial mace that was created by Leverett Cutton, who was a member of the class of 1907, and it was gifted by the class of 1907 as part of their 50th reunion in 1957. It has the engraved names of all of MIT's presidents, beginning with William Barton Rogers, and it's carried by the Chief Marshal of the one MIT ceremony. The Chief Marshal is, in fact, the president of the MIT Alumni Association, and this year that's Robert Wickham from the class of 93, and who also earned his master's degree in 1995.
We're watching the 50th reunion class now continue to process into Killian Court. They, of course, have a special reserve section close to the stage, sitting together. And after this ceremony is over, and for the balance of the long weekend, they have a number of fascinating activities that they will participate in, some of them here on campus, some of them off campus. And for many, this is the first time that they will be seeing their classmates in 50 years.
So you may have noticed that they're carrying in a banner. This one is blue and gray with the numerals 7 and 4 for their class. Every class gets a distinctive colored banner, and we have a number of them that have been retired from classes who, sadly, all of their members have passed away. It is worth noting that there is nearly 150,000 living alumni of MIT, and everywhere you go in the world, you can, in fact, find the influence and impact of an MIT graduate on those communities and countries.
Just looking out at the Killian Court scene right now, it appears that much of the drizzle has stopped. I just checked the live radar, and it shows that most of the precipitation is over with, and there's even the hope we'll see a poke of two of sunshine before sunset occurs a little before 8 p.m. this evening. And for those of you who are going to be tuning in our webcast tomorrow of the undergraduate ceremony, it's going to be an absolutely beautiful day with bright sunny sky and temperature about 70 degrees during the afternoon. So it looks like things are going to be improving really, really nicely. And just look at the smiles on the faces of those members of the class now.
In the background, as many of these class members pass by, you will notice there's a few pieces of artwork, and MIT is distinguished in many ways, but it has one of the most impressive campus public art collections in the world. And one of the programs that students here discover when they arrive is a program that allows them to borrow actual pieces of art for the year to have in their dorm or apartment for that year. It's made possible by the generosity of alums who, over the years, the Council for the Arts at MIT has acquired amazing prints, photographs, paintings that are allow the students to have something incredibly special in their residence.
Most people, when they think of MIT, think of science and engineering, but of course, humanities, arts, and social sciences is a very big part of what happens here. And one of the new buildings we have here on campus, Deb, is for music and theater arts.
That's right. It opens up shortly.
And now we're going to make another announcement.
Now, please rise and welcome the academic procession.
And now the audience is rising, and the academic procession is going to be entering Killian Court, led by the corporation.
That's right. So Mark Gorenborg is the new chair of MIT's corporation. He assumed office last summer, was elected, and the corporation is MIT's governing body. We were, in fact, in 1861 incorporated, and hence that term. So it's not a board of trustees. It is actually a group of members who come together several times a year to have oversight of the campus, and perhaps one of their most important functions is what you might call the visiting committees. These are special committees created by members of the corporation as well as outside industry and academics who visit every single department and program here at the Institute every 2 years, and they evaluate the strength of the program and really are advocates to help make these departments as good as they possibly can be.
It's a very big process. It's very challenging to go through for the faculty, for the staff, but it makes MIT so much better to have this advice.
Now you're seeing just that little gold mace appear, and at the top is a small beaver, MIT's mascot. That was adopted in 1914, 110 years ago, and that beaver was chosen because it was thought to be nature's engineer, and it did its best work at night.
To the left of the screen, you see our president, Sally Kornbluth. Behind is the provost, Cynthia Barnhart, and other members of the senior leadership of MIT. They are marching ahead of the faculty who will be on the stage with them today. Being on the stage for most of the faculty is voluntary, but there's tremendous enthusiasm for many, many to do it to honor the students who are graduating today.
In the black robe behind President Kornbluth is our commencement speaker.
And to his left, to the right on the screen, is Professor Eric Grimson, former chancellor of MIT and now the chancellor for academic advancement. And to the left there, we see Professor Ian Waits, just named the vice president of research here at MIT, succeeding Maria Zuber.
Yes, just going off the screen is President Emeritus Raphael Reif. And so you are seeing a variety of deans, provosts, chancellors, and then faculty members coming in. Those that are in the standardized robes have official roles within the institute, and then you'll start to see the doctoral robes of different institutions. So those bright orange stripes are a good indicator that that's a graduate of Princeton University.
Also occurring during the ceremony that will be coming up today are a number of traditions. We'll hear from the chorallaries singing the school song, and one that is near and dear to every graduate of MIT is turning of the brass rat. The brass rat, of course, is the class ring of MIT. It is very distinctive. It does not have a stone. It features the beaver on top, which is the engineer of the animal kingdom, planned in 1929, and the first class to receive the brass rat was the class of 1930.
Now, we didn't get a good look at it, and perhaps it will make its appearance later on, but there is the chair of the faculty, Professor Mary Fuller, carried in a wooden stylized shepherd's staff, which is a symbol of her leadership of the faculty. It's the second year of this staff that was designed by Professor Brandon Clifford of the Department of Architecture. It was given by the former chair, Professor Lily Tsai, And that original staff, which was created in 1973, is now part of the MIT Museum's collection.
So filling the courtyard today, again, to give you some statistics, because what's MIT without some numbers? 1,099 undergraduates, 2,604 graduate students, mostly masters, the rest, of course, doctors of philosophy or doctors of science. Each graduate is allowed to invite 4 guests, and that brings us up to, as Debbie mentioned, the 13,000 chairs that were set up in Killian Court. The graduates are sitting in the front. We have special sections for students and those with disabilities, the section for the 50th reunion class and their guests, and our faculty and guest speakers on the stage.
Now, the stage is protected by a very distinctive sail. It's called the MIT sail. You have never seen anything like it. It was designed by a member of the faculty who actually designed sails for sailing competitions, and so it was aimed as a structure that could offer shade and a little modest protection from precipitation, but it had to not catch the wind, and so its unique shape and angle are perfectly positioned each year in order to minimize what could be an otherwise disastrous event should a gust of wind appear.
And last year we had to take into special consideration the flying of the drone.
Indeed. So our speaker, one MIT speaker, last year was Mark Rober, who is very famous for his YouTube videos that popularize science. And he gave a really lovely talk to the students, and he concluded by taking off a custom-fitted mortarboard that when he went to toss it in the air, suddenly took off, wings appeared, and it flew up over and above the dome. But lest you worry that it disappeared, in fact, it was retrieved, and it is now part of the museum's collection.
That's terrific. So there's President Kornbluth, center of the stage right now with our commencement speaker, and President Emeritus Reif to the right there. The final faculty are just about to ascend to their seats on the stage, and in just a couple of moments we're going to be turning the program over to the corporation chair, to the president, and our guest speakers. Okay, it's been a pleasure being with you once again, Deb. We hope everybody enjoys the ceremony today, and of course we'll be back tomorrow live with the undergraduate ceremony.
Again, thank you very much. We wish you well this afternoon here from Cambridge, and congratulations to all the family and friends of the 2024 graduates of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
corporation and the faculty of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology are now declared convened. Together with this assembly, on the occasion of the one MIT commencement ceremony of this institution and in recognition of the degrees being conferred on the class of 2024. The stage assembly and audience will please remain standing for the invocation by Reverend Thea Keith Lucas, chaplain to the Institute, and join the choraries of MIT in singing of one verse of the Star-Spangled Banner.
One day, I stood in lobby 10 and watched people rush down the corridor, solving for the quickest route from point A to point B. Sometimes we move through the world, but do not join it. We stay behind the high tower walls of ourselves and only hear the echo back of our own hopes and fears. We put on our headphones and live inside the tiny rooms we have built between stereo right and stereo left, our own stories whispered into our ears, unheard by the strangers we pass in the halls. I want to bless the moments when the clock stops and the machine of productivity lurches to a halt, when the path of your day spools out towards the infinite and your humanity awakens. Can you feel your soul leaving its slumber and stretching out, ready for a new day? Can you hear the melody of your heart rise, like birds trilling at the rosy aurora of dawn? Come, crack open the window and let the sound flow out into the space between you and your neighbor. Hear how it creates an unexpected harmony, a new song of creativity that does not belong to you or to me, but dances between us. Imagine the thread that ties you to all the people you know and love, like a satin ribbon that you can pull through your hand. We have a choice. We can wrap it tighter and tighter around the spindle of some perfect core of truth, or we can open ourselves to the chaos and the beauty of unexpected connection. We can let our souls fly free together.
Twilight's last gleaming,
Please be seated. It's my privilege to welcome to the stage our guest speaker, Dr. Noubar Afeyan. We're also pleased to welcome our alumni celebrating their 50th reunion in their red jackets. In their red jackets for the first time, the class of 1974. Now you were juniors and seniors when, I looked up to you. I was a freshman and sophomore at MIT then. So let me just say, I know your hair was a little bit longer, but I know you're just as brilliant and you're just as mischievous as I remember, and your eyes and your smiles are just as bright. Welcome back to MIT. And now I have the honor of introducing you to our commencement speaker. Noubar Afeyan has built his remarkable career by trusting his crazy ideas, and he thinks you should trust yours too. Born in Lebanon to Armenian parents, he emigrated with them to Canada. Later, after graduating from McGill with a degree in chemical engineering, he made his way to MIT. In the late 1980s, Noubar earned a PhD here in biochemical engineering, just as the Boston biotech was just beginning to boom. And after taking his way into the class in corporate entrepreneurship, Noubar was off and running, on his way to a career that embodied the kind of bold, science-based problem-solving and fearless creativity we all think of as very MIT. A brilliant and charismatic teacher, he taught for 16 years at the MIT Sloan School, and as well, he taught at another business school on the Charles up the river. A scientist, an inventor, a member of the National Academy of Engineering, Dr. Afeyan holds more than 100 patents. A parallel entrepreneur who founded and leads Flagship Pioneering, he has co-founded more than 70 life science and technology startups. His first biotech company was in 1987, right after he graduated from MIT. His most famous company, where he is still chairman today, is Moderna, whose path-breaking messenger RNA vaccine was instrumental in helping turn back the pandemic of COVID-19. And in his spare time, yes, please. And in his spare time, Noubar has also built an extraordinary record as a humanitarian, including co-founding the Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity. He's also served MIT in many ways, including as a member of our corporation executive committee. I've therefore had the pleasure of being in many meetings with him, and every time I am amazed by his clarity and his vision and his strategic thinking. When Noubar speaks, people stop and want to listen. So I know we're in for a real treat today. Please join me in offering a warm welcome to Dr. Noubar Afeyan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for that generous but somewhat embarrassing introduction. President Kornbluth, trustees and faculty, students and families, alumni, and members of this remarkable community of scholars and solvers. It's a special honor to be with you today. Graduates, I once sat where you now sit, brimming with excitement and the sense of accomplishment that comes with a hard-won MIT diploma. Congratulations to all of you. Families, as the father of two MIT alums, Talene and Lena, I know firsthand the pride and emotion you feel today. Faculty members, as a senior lecturer here for 16 years, I saw up close how well you prepare these graduates for what lies ahead. And fellow trustees, it is a great privilege to serve alongside you. I spent my childhood in Beirut, Lebanon. 3 generations of my proud Armenian family shared an apartment on the 9th floor of our building. The window in the bedroom I shared with my great aunt looked out over the red-tiled roofs of Roman, Ottoman, and Byzantine buildings, and beyond to the Mediterranean Sea. When civil war erupted in 1975 and the government imposed strict curfews, the state broadcaster often shifted from airing 3 hours of TV a day to offering round-the-clock programming of mostly American television shows, a diversion for my brothers and me when we were forced to stay inside. One show in particular had me captivated. Just hearing the theme song would set my heart racing. Perhaps you know it too. That's right, Mission Impossible. Even if you never saw the TV show, you likely know the movies, with Tom Cruise as Agent Ethan Hunt. The encoded self-destructing message to the agents always began the same way: your mission, should you choose to accept it. No matter how long the odds or how great the risk, the agents always took the assignments. In the 50 years since, I have been consistently drawn to impossible missions, and today I hope to convince each and every one of you that you should be too. Class of 2024, one incredibly challenging mission is already under your belt. You were given the assignment to begin your studies at MIT without being at MIT. Going to college without going to college was not a mission you'd signed up for, but it is what you got. A handful of you did move to campus, but even for you, masking, testing, social distancing, and virtual classes meant orienting to a foreign land. You even learned a new language as terms like Q Week and Scuffy entered your MIT lexicon. No one knew what would happen next or when it would end. And yet, you found ways to thrive. You dove into your coursework and started to build mostly virtual friendships. In the words of your classmate, Amber Velez, who rented a Cambridge apartment with 3 MIT roommates, you patched together a little lifeboat in this vast sea of students spread out all over the world. Earlier that year, just up the road in Kendall Square, my colleagues and I at Moderna had received another mission that seemed impossible: develop a safe and effective vaccine that could save lives, restart the economy, and do so in less than a year. Oh, and while you're at it, get 1 billion doses manufactured, distribute them around the world, and get them into the arms of people. It was clear that if we accepted this challenge, it would take everything we had. We would have to slow 20 ongoing drug development projects and focus on solving COVID. We embraced this mission, and I'm so proud that my colleague and friend, Professor Langer, is here. He was a main driver of this as well. Just 48 hours after Moderna obtained the sequence for the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein, we deployed our mRNA technology to produce a potent vaccine. Less than 2 months later, we enrolled the first patient in a clinical trial. And on November 16th, the vaccine was determined to be 94.5% effective against COVID-19. By some estimates, Moderna's vaccine saved over 2 million lives during the pandemic. How did we do it? Well, that's another speech for another day. But what I do want to talk about is what it takes to accept your own impossible missions and why you as graduates of MIT are uniquely prepared to do so. Uniquely prepared and also obligated. At a time when the world is beset by crises, your mission is nothing less than to salvage what seems lost, reverse what seems inevitable, and save the planet. And just like the agents in the movies, you need to accept the mission even if it seems impossible. I know the odds don't appear to be in your favor, but this age of poly-crisis is also a moment of poly-opportunity, fueled by artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum computing, and other modern technologies that are changing the world faster than people believe is possible. Now you are uniquely equipped to turn science fiction into science reality. With the right mindsets, Mission Impossible can become Mission Improbable as you overcome obstacles and seemingly long odds by imagining and innovating your way to novel solutions. So how do you go about doing that? How do you become the agents the world needs you to be starting from today? Well, you already have a head start, quite a significant one. You graduate today from MIT, and that says volumes about your knowledge, talent, vision, passion, and perseverance, all essential attributes of the elite 21st century agent. Oh, and I forgot to mention our relaxed, uncompetitive nature, our outstanding social skills, and the overall coolness that characterizes each and every MIT grad. But more seriously, you are trained in science, mathematics, engineering, and technology, fields that when properly harnessed and supported can be deployed against almost any seemingly impossible challenge. You may not realize it yet, but your MIT education has given you a superpower, like X-ray vision, that lets you see through the illusion of impossibility and surface the blueprints for solutions. And as of today, you even have a secret decoder ring, better known as the brass rat. MIT's history underscores these special powers. The telephone, digital circuits, radar, email, internet, the Human Genome Project, controlled drug delivery, magnetic confinement fusion energy, artificial intelligence, and all that is enabling. These and many more breakthroughs emerged from the work of extraordinary change agents tied to MIT. Now let me ask you a question. Aside from MIT, what do such agents have in common? What equips them to accomplish seemingly impossible missions? I'd argue they do three things that make leaps possible. They imagine, they innovate, and they immigrate. And now it's your turn. Start by unleashing your imagination. People often see imagination as the exclusive province of the arts, of movie making, of literature, painting. I think that's nonsense. Imagination, to my mind, is the foundational building block of breakthrough science. I'm not making an argument against reason, let alone at MIT. Reason has a role to play, but in accomplishing impossible missions, it's the servant, not the master. You can't expect reasoning to do the work of imagination. At its best, scientific research is a profoundly creative endeavor. You have mastered proofs, problem sets, and design projects, but in the words of mathematician and author Lewis Carroll, imagination is the only weapon in the war with reality. To the great Irish writer George Bernard Shaw, its role is even more fundamental. As he put it, imagination is the beginning of creation. You imagine what you desire, you will what you imagine, and at last you create what you will. It is also your turn to innovate. Think of innovation as imagination in action. Or perhaps mens in manus, or mind in hand. But I hear that line's already taken. MIT did not prepare you to shy away from the unknown, quite the contrary. You are now prepared to leap for the stars, sometimes quite literally. Just ask the more than 40 NASA astronauts with MIT degrees. Leaps often involve unreasonable or even seemingly crazy ideas. Ordinary innovations are often judged by how reasonable the idea is and an extension of what already exists, and how reasonable the person proposing it is. But ask yourself one central question. Why do we expect extraordinary results from reasonable people doing reasonable things? As you've probably guessed by now, I'm utterly unreasonable and an eternal optimist. As a lifelong entrepreneur and innovator, I have to be. But I've always practiced a special kind of optimism. I call it paranoid optimism. This means toggling back and forth between extreme optimism and deep-seated doubt. The kind of paranoid optimism needed to make scientific or technological leaps often starts with an act of faith. By that I mean belief without facts, the very definition of faith. Now, I know faith is generally associated with religion, but interestingly, in my experience, pioneering science also starts with faith. You take leaps of faith, and then you do experiments, and on rare occasions, the experiments work, converting your leap of faith into scientific reality. What a thrill when that happens. On your innovation journey, beyond optimism and faith, you will also need the courage of your convictions. Make no mistake, you leave MIT as special agents in demand. As you consider your many options, I urge you to think hard about what legacy you want to leave, and to do this periodically throughout your life. Not every mission you are qualified for is a mission worth accepting. You are far more than technologists. You are moral actors. The choice to maximize solely for profits and power will, in the end, leave you hollow. To forget this is to fail the world and ultimately to fail yourself. I know many of you here, and some in the class of 2024, not with us here today, are deeply troubled by the conflicts and tragedies we are witnessing. As an Armenian descended from genocide survivors and co-founder of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, I feel deeply the wounds of these conflicts. I wish I had answers for all of us, but of course I don't. But I do know this: having conviction should not be confused with having all the answers. Over my many years engaged in entrepreneurship and humanitarian philanthropy, I have learned that there's enormous benefit in questioning what you think you know, listening to people who think differently, and seeking common ground. As you grapple with today's hard choices and the many that lie ahead, rely again on your imagination. Imagine the world you want to create and work backwards from there. Be open to the many paths that could carry you towards this goal, and let the journey inform which ones will succeed. Now, I've urged you to imagine and to innovate. The last thing I want to leave you with is the need to immigrate. I'll say more about what I mean by immigrate in a second, but first, I want to give a shout out to others who, like me, have left their homelands. For those of you who have, thank you. For those of you who have emigrated here from far away, or whose parents did, or whose grandparents did, please stand. I applaud you. It may often feel like a disadvantage, but you will soon learn it is quite the opposite. When I first arrived at MIT, I worried I did not belong here. I spoke with an accent, I still speak with a little accent. My pastime wasn't hockey or lacrosse, but it was Armenian folk dance. Then one afternoon, late in my first year here, I was walking down the Infinite Corridor when a poster caught my eye. Staring back from the poster was a Native American chief in full headdress, eyes defiant, fingers pointed seemingly right at me. The poster read, "Who are you calling immigrant, pilgrim?" I can't tell you what an impact that had on me. Aside from Native Americans, we all at some point come from somewhere else. It helped me realize that I belonged here at MIT, in the United States. And graduates and families, you do too. But here's the really interesting thing that I've learned over the years. You need not be from elsewhere to immigrate. If the immigrant experience can be described as leaving familiar circumstances and being dropped into unknown territory, I would argue that every one of you also arrived at MIT as an immigrant, no matter where you grew up. And as immigrants, you are all at an advantage when it comes to impossible missions. Why? You've left your comfort zone. You've entered uncharted territory. You've forgone the safety of the familiar. Yet you persist and you survive. You figure out how to accomplish your mission. Like elite agents, immigrants are the ultimate innovators, equipped to navigate obstacles, to never say never. In fact, I often describe innovation as intellectual immigration. Just like those of us who emigrate from other countries, innovators pioneer new environments, seeking a better future, not just for themselves, but also for the larger world. So, whether you grew up in Cambodia, or in California, or right here in Cambridge, you can immigrate. You need to keep immigrating. You need to leave your comfort zone, to think in new ways, to acclimate to the unfamiliar, and embrace uncertainty. If you imagine, innovate, and immigrate, you are destined to a life of uncertainty. Being surrounded by uncertainty can definitely be unnerving. But it's where you need to be. This is where the treasure lies. It's ground zero for breakthroughs. Don't conflate uncertainty as risk, or think of it as extreme risk. Uncertainty isn't high risk. It's unknown risk. It is, in the essence, opportunity. Now, I began with a show. I'll end with a movie. The most recent Mission Impossible film released just last summer. The film is a daunting reminder of all that your generation is up against: complicated geopolitics, climate and technological pressures, and AI tools that will both simplify and complicate our world. But graduates, as I look at all of you, I see a large team of agents who are entirely capable of completing your missions. I see agents for good, agents for change. MIT has prepared you to tackle impossible missions, to harness the future and bend it towards the light. My wish for you, my fervent hope, is that you not only choose to accept impossible missions, but you embrace them. Welcome long odds, embrace uncertainty, and lead with imagination. Approach the unknown with the courage, the confidence, and the curiosity of an immigrant, with paranoia and optimism. And always remember the strength of working in teams. Show the world why Mission Impossible teams, inevitably shorthands for MIT. Graduates, set forth on your impossible missions, accept them, embrace them. The world needs you, and it's your turn to star in the action adventure called your life. Thank you.
Nubar, thank you for such an inspiring talk. Thank you for picking up the mission when it was in front of you to do so much good for society. And by the way, thank you for bringing the sun out today. Here we are. It's going to be a fantastic day. Lieutenant Michaela Nicole Molina is president of the Graduate Student Council, and she will now give a salute from the graduate student body. Following this, Ms. Penny Brandt, president of the undergraduate class of 2024, there's some Penny fans here, will offer a salute, after which President Kornbluth will deliver her charge to the graduates. Michaela?
Good afternoon, esteemed faculty, proud families, friends, and most importantly, my fellow graduates of MIT. Today, as we gather to celebrate this monumental achievement, I am honored to represent the graduate students as a former president of the Graduate Student Council. As graduate students, we often move unseen, deeply immersed in our fields of study. We tend to under-celebrate our accomplishments, perhaps because our work often pushes us to constantly look at what is next and all the questions that remain unanswered. I urge us all not to let this accomplishment be another that passes without remark. A professor here in mechanical engineering who, among friends I won't name, started many of his lectures by stating that there are two kinds of people in the world. Today, please allow me to steal his line and point out that there are two kinds of people in the world: those who have not graduated from MIT and those who have. I think he would agree that it is worth pausing work to celebrate joining the latter group. It is crucial to acknowledge that while our degrees bear our names, the journey to this moment has hardly been solitary. We have been part of an intricate web of support, mentors who guided us, peers who challenged us, families who sustained us, and friends who have lifted our spirits. Yet it is equally important to recognize that the drive, the countless hours of study and research, and the resilience in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, those were all you. Though we did not do this alone, no one did it for us. Holding a degree from an institution as esteemed as MIT is a privilege. You could say that it is a great power that comes with great responsibility. Now, more than ever, the world is looking for leaders and innovators it can trust. We are equipped not just with knowledge and skills, but with the power to influence, innovate, and inspire change. We are the new stewards of technology, policy, and science, and we are well equipped to tackle the problems that will define our generation. Let us step forward from today with a commitment not only to further our own goals, but also to use our skills and knowledge to contribute positively to our communities and the world. May our actions reflect the excellence and integrity that MIT has instilled in us. I urge us all to take a moment to truly appreciate what we have accomplished and to embrace the exciting challenges that lie ahead. We will further be building the legacy of MIT and honoring everyone who helped us reach this point.
Good afternoon, families, friends, guests, and most importantly, the graduating class of 2024. I am beyond honored to be here with you today, and like to take this time to reflect on three things that I'm most thankful for. Firstly, I'm thankful for my family and support community, for their unconditional trust that allowed me to explore my curiosity starting at a young age. I know this may be the case for you too, and that without the support of many people here today, we would not be here. Secondly, I'm thankful for the difficult obstacles that we encountered along the way. For me, I think of the challenges that I faced when moving to the US at age 11 and learning English. Every one of us here have overcome great obstacles. And without the strength and trust we gained in ourselves through the process, we would not be here today. And thirdly, and most importantly, I'm thankful for all of you. When I first arrived in Cambridge 4 years ago, the city felt like a big maze shrouded in snow of stark, brutalist architecture of concrete buildings and metal pipes. I expected my time at MIT to be similarly solitary. And in fact, I even considered transferring out during my first year due to the intense academic pressure. However, thanks to all of you, this is not the case today. I can confidently say that none of the achievements I've had at MIT are by myself. I encourage all of you to look around at your peers and just think of one way that they helped you in your MIT journey. For me, I think of the many 4 a.m. problem sets I wouldn't have finished if not for the supportive friends cheering me on. It's the many late-night conversations in our living communities that guide me through difficult life situations. I know I would not be graduating here today if not for all of you who have helped me along the way. You all have had such a profound and positive impact on me, our community, and the world. I'd now like to invite the class of 2024 to participate in a long-standing MIT tradition with me. I'd like all of you to take out your MIT class ring, the brass rat or the grad rat. Take the ring off and turn it over so that the beaver is now facing the world instead of facing you. To me, this represents a transition where we take the memories, lessons, and spirit of the MIT community and bring them with us to the world. With this turn, I now give all of you my unconditional trust that you will do good for the world. I cannot wait to see all the amazing things you'll create in the coming decades of our lives. Congratulations again to the class of 2024.
Penny and Michaela, thank you both for your reflections today and for your leadership in our community. Good afternoon, everyone. It is customary on this day of celebration for the president to deliver a charge to the graduating class. Wow, thank you, really, thank you. All right. In a year when there's been so much campus turmoil, I may not be able to offer you either advice or inspiration, but I would like to acknowledge a few things that I've learned since I came to MIT 17 months ago. And I want to start by addressing your parents and your families. As all of you know, the education we offer students is famous for its depth and its rigor. And we're proud of the bursting satchel of skills and knowledge that every MIT graduate carries out into the world. But the truth is that the young people you sent us, whom you trusted us to educate and care for, were remarkable before we even met them. You certainly know this about them as individuals, and you know the specific challenges they had to overcome. For some of you, the young person whose graduation you're here to celebrate is the first in your family to go to college. For some, coming here meant leaving home many thousands of miles away. For some, it meant overcoming language barriers or personal hardships. Some faced all the normal rigors of the MIT curriculum on top of family responsibilities and even tragic losses. You also know their individual achievements, how much they learned and grew and stretched and pushed themselves long before they came to MIT. You know how delightful and inspiring and thoughtful they are. And I expect at least most of you know the particular thrill of the day you realized that they now understood things that you just cannot understand. The day when it would be no longer possible for you, even theoretically, to help them with their homework. So you know them well as exceptional individuals. But at MIT, we also get to see them all together. Taken together in their critical mass, they are a natural wonder, as awe-inspiring as a visitation of 17-year cicadas, as miraculous as a total eclipse of the sun. It's been our privilege to teach them and to learn together with them, and we share with you the highest hopes for what they will do next. Now, to those of you graduating today, with the exception of a few master's students, nearly all of you have been part of the MIT community longer than I have. You know its culture and quality so well that they may not stand out to you anymore. But I've spent my whole career in higher education, and I have never seen a community quite like this one. A community founded on wonder and wondering why. A community whose version of March Madness is 1,000 people staring upward, spontaneously sharing the wondrous sight of a solar eclipse, and actually being able to explain it. A community that runs on an irrepressible combination of curiosity and creativity and drive. A community in which everyone you meet has something important to teach you. A community in which people expect excellence of themselves and take great care of one another. I have no doubt that you're tired of hearing how resilient you are because of the pandemic, but I mention that long drawn-out challenge as another illustration of what it means to be part of this particular community. A community that fought the virus with the tools of measurement and questioning and analysis and self-discipline, and was therefore able to pursue its mission almost undeterred. A community that understands in a deep way that the vaccines, as Nubar just said, were not some overnight miracle, but rather the final flowering of decades of work by thousands of people pushing the boundaries of fundamental science. A place that does not shy away from complexity. A place that embraces the hardest problems. You may not ever find another community like it, but I hope you'll keep us in mind as you design and invent creative communities of your own. All of you graduating here today have been tested by the repercussions of a relentless virus, by societal upheaval here, and by violent conflict and the most terrible human suffering abroad. And of course, you have been tested many, many, many times by the faculty of MIT. And MIT, an education is sort of a test of endurance, a grand P-set made of P-sets, a test made of tests. MIT is famous for testing its students, but you have tested us too from the moment you arrived to the present. You have tested our systems, our assumptions, our practices. You've revealed places where our understanding may fall short. You've shown us that we need to reflect more deeply and be willing to assess and reconsider long-held beliefs. In short, the institute you are graduating from is, thanks in part to you, always reflecting, always changing, and I take that as your charge to us. So thank you, congratulations, and best wishes to each of you for a wonderful future.
President Kornbluth, thank you for an incredibly inspiring charge, and thank you for being here. It's now my pleasure to introduce Robert Wickham, the Chief Marshal, who will greet the graduates. Mr. Wickham is a two-time graduate of MIT himself, currently serving as the president of the MIT Alumni Association. Robert?
It is my honor to recognize the class of 2024, the newest alumni of MIT. The entire alumni body, nearly 147,000 strong, joins me in congratulating all of the 2024 graduates and officially welcoming you into our alumni family, your infinite connection to MIT.
Thank you, Robert. And to all our speakers, President Kornbluth, Dr. Afayan, Reverend Keith Lucas, Ms. Molina, Ms. Brandt, congratulations and best wishes to all of the families, friends, and of course the graduates of the class of 2024. The One MIT commencement ceremony of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology is now concluded. At this time, would everyone please rise and join the choraries of MIT in singing the school song, followed by Take Me Back to Tech.
The difference Hey!